We're looking forward to hearing from you. You're going to be talking about communication strategies and how that can improve service delivery. And we're really excited to hear from you. So I just want to throw it over to you and let you get started.
Thanks, Mike. Glad to be back here. As we were talking beforehand, like kind of missed this as it's always
Ah,
enjoyable to hang out with you guys and to share some insights and things like that. So what we're going to dive in today is going to be a kind of a dive into one of the top trends that I'm seeing in AI usage. And this is primarily in the private sector, but I think it has some really direct applications to the public sector. And that's the topic of leveraging AI for hyper personalized communication. And I'll give you kind of a couple examples of where we see this a lot. You probably experience this a lot. So imagine you're out with your friends or your family and you're out talking and the topic of Doritos comes up, right? And you're talking about your favorite Doritos, what different flavors they have there. Maybe you're talking about the different commercials they've had over the course of the years. And then when you go to bed that night or the next day or later that afternoon, you open up your social media feed. Maybe it's Facebook, maybe it's YouTube, and what do you see? You see an ad for Doritos, right? And so we joke about our phones listening to us, but it's probably happening, and we get those hyper personalized ads that we're seeing here. And so just the other day, my wife and I were talking about whether or not Super Bowl ads will eventually become hyper personalized to the individual market or individual watching the Super Bowl. On the other hand of things, you also have ads that are just completely irrelevant, maybe to your status in life or what you're doing. You'll see those on different, TV games. Last night watching a baseball game, and all the ads in there had nothing to do with me, and it was, just basically filler time between the actual game time. But what we're seeing now within local government or within the private sector is this idea of being able to use AI to create really quickly some hyper personalized communication and communication strategies. So a lot of this is going to be kind of theoretical in nature, but if you thought for a minute that we weren't going to dive into some very practical tools and do some practical hands-on stuff, well, you must not be familiar with the SGR Wednesday webinars because that's what everything is. And by the way, just a quick plug. One of the things that I've enjoyed doing over the last month is catching up on previous Wednesday webinars that I hadn't got a chance to listen to. If you didn't know, a lot of these guys are already on YouTube. So you go to their SGR YouTube page and you can click on the live tab and you'll see the last one. So just last night I was watching the one from Randy Mayu on Conquering Crisis, that book review, which was just an incredible book review. So if you ever got a chance to watch uh, Randy's book reviews, highly recommend them. I don't always get to watch them live, but always appreciate being able to go back and watch the on-demand version of those Wednesday webinars. So highly encourage you all to do that. So I'm going to share my screen here. I'm going to walk through a couple things here. I'm going to show you something that I think might be really interesting for local government. This is ChatGPT first. We'll get here in a second. I'll show you some ways you can kind of do this. But what I want to show you first is something I created last night. And what this does is this is bringing in the iCalendar from the city of McKinney, Texas. And then what we're going to be able to do from here is create hyper personalized or hyper targeted uh, email or social media campaigns for their different events. But go back over here, make sure. Give me 1 second. I stopped my screen sharing. I hit the wrong button. Let's try this one more time. Here we go. Okay, so the first thing is this is just based on their calendar. I'm just going to search for events in the next week, and I'm going to focus on families and youth and find events. And let's go back over here, make sure it's all running good to go. I'm going to refresh this real quick here. Give me a second to run this back up here. And we'll show you how to create this here. We'll create kind of a different version of it. Okay, here we go. It's up and running now. Same thing, the dates, families, and youth, find events. And this is actually pretty good. So we'll do it this way here. The interface isn't working the way I want it to. So let's see if I can do it this way. I will show you it in this event, and hopefully we'll get to the the event app actually working. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna say, I want to create an app that allows me to create multiple social media posts on multiple platforms for advertising City of McKinney events for like families, youth, general population, seniors. I want to be able to upload an event and then create multiple social media posts. So with this replit thing, what we can do is we can actually create different apps that allows us to have these different ad copies you could think of, or different social media copies. So it's going to go ahead and do that. Obviously, you can do the same thing within ChatGPT. So we can do the same thing here. If we go over to the city of McKinney, Texas, for example, I'm going to grab their calendar right here. Let it load up here in a second. And I can look at these different events here. So let's say that, let's grab one here. I'm looking for one that might be of interest here. Let's grab the Apex Summer Camp they have here. Some more details right here. So here it is. Copy this, go to ChatGPT and say, I want to create a social media post for this event. Please create one that focuses on young families and tell me what social media platforms I should use. So it's going to look at that event. Hopefully, it can pull that up. If it can't pull it up, we can always copy and paste that event directly into. You can just copy the text on this event and do it that way as well too, or on this event, copy it. But so far, it's able to do that. So here we go. It's giving us a breakdown of what this event is, photos of kids, some suggestions they have, photos of kids, maybe the Apex Center logo or center facade, icons denoting hours, age range, flexibility, weekly booking. So best social platforms for this would be Facebook, Instagram, maybe TikTok, and Nextdoor. So we can do here is we can say, okay, let's design a Facebook post for this event. So here we go. We'll have a ready to go Facebook post. Perfect. It's getting this right there. And then we can do different things too, because one of the things that is important in social media is having those images and whatnot. So maybe I want to go to the Apex Summer Camp. So I can go over here and go to Apex Summer Camp, McKinney, Texas. I'm using Perplexity for this. So we have a little outline of what this is, but I'm looking for specifically here is the images. So here's kind of some fun images here of the Apex Summer Camp. And I can save this image right here, go back to my social media post, add that photo right here, and say, let's see here. Let's design a image to accompany the post using this format. It'll go through, hopefully create an image for us. And while it's loading that image, let's check on our little app here we did. Well, it gives me a plan for how it's going to create this. We can approve the plan to start. While it's doing that in the background, let's go check on our image over here. And it's about done here. Hopefully soon it'll be all the way done. And we can do with this too. We could also within, obviously we're going to create other posts for this, right? So we have this entire post right here. So we can copy this right here. I'm just going to copy it. So right click, copy. I'm going to start a new chat for this just so that we don't interrupt the image creation. And I'm going to say, I want to make sure that this Facebook post is really reaching our younger families in McKinney. Any suggestions on how to improve and personalize? And I'll paste this post on there. So it says the main goal is to grab younger families in McKinney. The post could feel a little more person to person and a little less flyer copy. So here we go. It's okay, bikini parents. So you see it's a difference, calling out parents specifically. And I call out the younger families just because of the age group range of the ages of 5 to 12. So here we go. This is much better. I like this. It talks about the brand new adventure, swimming, crafts, outdoor games, and friends will talk about all year. So it's definitely highlighting that those young families kind of thing, right? Why you love it, keeps them busy, active and off screens. That's always a plus. You pick the weeks, perfect for crazy summer schedules, safe, supervised, and close to home. Now let's go back and check on our actual image here. And here we go. Now it generated some AI pictures of some kids here, which actually didn't do a terrible job, I don't think. Looks like it just kind of grabbed some kids swimming in a swimming pool kind of thing. So here we go. Now we have this image right here. I can click right here, download it, go back over to my improved Facebook posts and say, grab that photo and say, let's add this to the post. So here we go. It tells you exactly, there's your image. Here's your post and good to go. Now, another thing we can do too is obviously talk about Facebook specifically, right? So if we want to, going back to the social media post ideas right here, we can say, okay, now what would it look like for next door and specifically for grandparents who have their grandkids with them over the summer. So maybe, maybe Mike's grandkids are visiting him and he and his wife need a little bit of a break because they are maybe they're just so full of energy that he and his wife need a little bit of break, and so they're thinking, man, it'd be nice to be able to send these kids to the Apex summer camp in McKinney, Texas. So how do we focus on that? So here we go. Here's a sample next door post. Again, we're targeting different segments of the population, and obviously there's different ways we can do this too. This is just what the event-based thing. So you can see from here, we can have something quickly developed for grandparents and then quickly developed for families or things like that. So just different ways that we can quickly create different hyper personalized postings for the events that we have. You could take an event, quickly see, okay, what areas is focused on, how do we get people like this to show up to our event, how do we get young families, maybe it's grandparents or things like that, to be able to show up and engage their community and know what services and things like that we have out there. So let me show you another one here as well. We'll go to a new chat, maybe something a little different here besides a fun summer event in McKinney, Texas. Before we do that, let's check in on our post here. It's still creating it, or our app is still creating it. So we'll let that work in the background here. Now let's grab something here and talk about something like a water main break. So let's say we have a water main break in the city of McKinney, Texas. I want to create a hyper personalized social media campaign for this event to let people know. And just for the sake of example, I'm just going to type in random street names. I have no idea if these are actual street names in McKinney, Texas, or if this is a real location. So bear with me here. The break is on the corner of First Ave and Central Street. The impacted area is about 5,000 residents and 250 homes. So here we go. Here's a messaging strategy, layer communication. So it localizes, personalizes, clarifies, provides action. So core post for general awareness. So saying, okay, write the core thing on Facebook and Nextdoor might be helpful. Tone, calming, helpful, reassuring. Visual, a neighborhood level map with the affected area. Here's an example text right here. Targeted post, hyper local personalization. So target a radius of 0.5 to 1 mile around First Ave and Central Street. Use neighborhood names and posts. For example, if you live in neighborhood A, live in neighborhood B, include clear subject line, water main break, hyperlocal version. Here we go, right? And then the shorter form for Twitter, Instagram short stories, visual out assets, timing and cadence, optional enhancements like geofenced ads or whatnot if you want to do something like that. So here we have an entire messaging strategy. So we can do this. We can just copy this entire thing, ask ChatGPT and say, please create this for Nextdoor and Facebook. I want to maintain a unified message across both platforms, but also to make sure that we are capitalizing on the strengths of the uniquenesses and audiences on both platforms. So basically, what I'm trying to say is, look, I want the same unified message because obviously you don't want a different message on something like this. You want a different message on Facebook versus a different message on Nextdoor. So you want a unified message, but at the same time, understanding that the people on Facebook might be a little bit different than people on Nextdoor. There might be a lot of overlap there, but it might be a little bit different, a little bit more unique. So here's a Facebook post. Here we go. And then here's the Nextdoor post. So a little bit different. Um, impact tips there. So in this one, what you see here is that the Facebook post is much more informational, impacted area, what to expect, estimated restoration time. And the Nextdoor post, which is pretty consistent with Nextdoor specifically, is a lot more, okay, here's what to do, right? Here's some tips and things like that. So Facebook, broader city audience, slightly more formal tone, stronger call to action for official alerts. And the Nextdoor version, more neighbor to neighbor, direct you language, practical tips, and encouragements to share with others in the area. So we have that right there. Now let's work on the hyper personalized targeted posts. So here we are. Copy this right here, and let's say let's create these different posts, emails, etc. Okay, here's a Facebook post, general one, very similar to the other one. Nextdoor, neighborhood focus. So if you're familiar with Nextdoor, they have different neighborhood groups that you can sign up for and spy on your neighbors and things like that. but you have different next door posts, and so you can focus on each individual neighborhood. So maybe you have the same map, but cropped closer to streets for easier recognition, right? So you could, have an image of a map with them, target each individual neighborhood depending on what area you're focusing on, in case this area of 250 homes or 5,000 residents kind of maybe it overlaps different areas of or different neighborhoods there. Hyperlocal sponsored Facebook posts, targeted posts, next door posts for neighborhood groups, email alerts to registered residents, and here's an SMS text alert for that as well too. So one thing too we can see here is just how quickly it was to create these different hyper personalized or hyper localized alerts and messaging and highlighting the strengths of different social media platforms, the audiences that are there, and things like that. One thing we could do here as well too is we could also say on the Facebook and next door posts, we need to encourage residents to sign up for city alerts. So we could do something like that, maybe sign up for alerts and whatnot, and have that as kind of a call to action on both things. Maybe we want to increase the number of people who are on our alert system for other types of disaster events or things like that. Obviously, when it comes to anything like letting people know about events or letting people know about um, incidents rather, not events. You always want to be careful because you don't want to over notify people and make it more of a white noise where it's basically just gets sent to a trash folder or ignored. And so you have to be careful of not over communicating or over notifying people for things like that. And this is something where I really think that this hyper localization, this ability to do something like this, really comes in handy, right? Because if we have a situation where it only impacts a certain segment of the population, then or a certain geographical area of the population, we're able to do this in a way that doesn't blast out to everyone. We can really focus on those different population segments that are actually impacted by said events. So let's go back over here and take a look at how we're doing. Um, so it built this for me, it says. I'm just going to say I don't see anything in the interface. And we'll see if we can do that here. Let's go back over to here. Here we go. It's going to work on this. And I'll close this here because I've been on this site before, so I'm pretty confident with this one. We'll let it work here, then we'll go back and do that. Okay, there we go. Perfect. So while it's still working on that in the back end, we'll work on a couple more examples here of just things to think about as we're designing hyper personalized and hyper focused uh, social media posts and social media campaigns and things like that. Another example here we could think of is city council meetings. So I'm going to go over here to the city of McKinney, Texas, and I have no idea what's going to be on their council meeting. So let's just grab this right here, more details. I hope they have their agenda posted by now. I don't know if they will or not, but we'll find out. So here's the agenda. I'm just going to grab this right here. Let's grab the work session right here for, actually we'll do this work session here for 8/8. Okay. So here's the work session right here. Let's talk about real property and things like that. It's kind of a boring one. Let's see if I can get a better one right here on the regular council meeting. Maybe this will be a little more juicy, a little more interesting things happening. Okay, perfect. I'm going to download this right here, save this, upload this to our ChatGPT, and say our one of our goals in the city is to increase attendance at our council meetings so more people know what's going on in their city. Looking over this agenda, who are the population segments we can focus our social media posts on to encourage them to come out and a attend this council meeting. Okay, so here we go. Parents and so there's a couple of things here to focus on: parents and school committees, homeowners focus on neighborhood improvements, environmental and sustainability advocates, developers, realtors, and residents concerned about taxes and budgets, local owners, veterans and families, and so off. Okay. And says if you like, I can map these into a specific platform specific content plans and Facebook and extra posts, each speak to the right audience while maintaining a consistent message. That way, you're not just telling people what's on the agenda, you're showing why they personally should come. So do this and say, yes, please. Also, if there are other social media platforms we should be hitting as well, let me know. Okay, here's a targeted platform by platform content plan. And we'll take a couple of these and kind of build a couple of these out that we can see exactly how easy it is to take this, right? We have our agenda, and now we're focusing on, okay, how do we get people to come out, see what's going on, and that way they're more informed and more aware of the actions of their communities. So we'll do this one right here. We'll say, let's first start with parents and school communities. Okay, here we go. We could post this on the city page. Maybe there's some PTO or PTA groups we can post this on as well too. So headline, here we go. The next door post, the targeted affected neighborhoods. Maybe it's focusing on a specific school, and maybe that specific school is in a certain neighborhood, and so you focus on that specific school. Instagram posts, slide 1, slide 2, slide 5. And here we can do is we can actually create these different things right here. So we can do here is say, let's create these carousels. Give me the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 5. I'm just picking these ones randomly. So on here, slide 1, slide 2, I'm just doing slide 4 and slide 5 for the sake of this. You could obviously do more. It's up to you what you want to do. So it'll create these different carousels for us, give you an idea of what this is. It's probably going to create one image. It'll take more time, but ideally what we want to do is create one image for slide 1, one image for slide 2, one image for slide 3, 4, 5, and so on. And then you can create that for your Instagram carousel if you want to. While it's creating that image, let's go back and check over here and see this. Let's go back to my page and see this is work over here. I'm going to highlight this that way you can see it's not working. Copy. This is all I see. And I really hope I can get this to work. If it doesn't work, we'll figure something out. But hopefully there's still value in seeing these different Facebook posts and these different ways to hyper personalize what's going on here. So here we go. Yep, it's creating different images. It's going to kind of create one image with four different quadrants. You can imagine that each individual one is one image, and then we could go that way. So it's slowly creating said image for us. I'm going to close up these other tabs over here just for the sake of this working better. So here we go. Here's the different images. Obviously, this is one whole image, but we could create these different ones for individual images. And you can see just how quickly we're able to create a Instagram post, Instagram carousel for something like the school, the impacts for school drop-offs or something like that. We can scroll back up here to the top and see what other things we have as well. So maybe we also want to do something for the recycling grant award. So we can say, let's also create one for the recycling grant award. Yes, this will be important to environmental advocates, but I also think it's a fun challenge for kids as well. So let's create a campaign that focuses on both, but make it individually targeted. So here we go. We'll have two different tailored campaigns, one for environmental advocates, city data-driven, community impact tone, kids and families, fun, interactive, and action-oriented. So here we go. Campaign one is the environmental advocates, impact, policy aware, things like that. Campaign two, kids and families. So say this right here. We can say, yes, please. Basically, what we're doing here is we're having it create two separate carousel sets, one civic focused, one kid friendly. That way they're visually distinct, but feel like they're part of the same city brand. That way you can post them to the right audiences without overlap, right? So we're focusing on different segments of the population, but we're trying to maintain that same brand and unified message across the board. So I'll create this right here. Let's see if we are in any luck over here. Doesn't look like it. Let's go back over here. I'm going to see something if I can get it this way. And let's see if I can possibly get this to work over here, if it'll work any better. Okay. So while this image over here is downloading, we'll try it out over here. We'll have end date of 1 week. Focus on families, seniors, and youth. Find events. And let's not click here and see if this gets any better. Here we go, 81 events. I guess the filter thing isn't working right now. Here's our Apex Summer Camp. We talked about that before. Here, just click the event. And then we can have the audience say for seniors, we'll add combination. Let's do one next door for families. Add one more. Let's do a Instagram for youth. Generate these different posts. And it'll create, hopefully, Lord willing, the creek don't rise, we'll be able to create 3 different posts right here. So here we go. Here's a post. First one is Facebook for seniors. Join us here. Next one here is next door for families. And finally, I missed one up here. This is seniors. I only created 2 social media posts for the platform audience. I guess we didn't get the Instagram youth one, but that's fine for now. You can see basically what we're able to do and what I was trying to create in the previous version of it was creating a platform that allows us to say, okay, let's input our calendar. So on this one, we inputted the entire calendar for the city of McKinney, Texas. It took all that in, able to say, okay, let's filter it by date so you can search different dates of that. And basically then what it does is you can create with one click of a button or a couple of clicks of the button, I guess here, because you filter out what platform and audiences you want to do. You can go ahead and then create multiple different copies in clicks of a button. So instead of having to go out and type these things in manually or things like that, having to go or just copy and paste the same thing across all the same platforms, we can really focus in on who is on each unique platform. Just a quick side story. When I used to be a town manager in a small mining town about an hour east of the Phoenix area. And so we had a lot of our population was more senior and things like that in our area. definitely not as technologically savvy as maybe the Phoenix Metro, maybe like a Chandler or a Mesa or even like a Dallas Fort Worth kind of area is. And one of the things I was talking with my we have a Chamber of Commerce kind of thing in that area, and this Chamber of Commerce individual, the head of it, she was telling me how she wanted to do more on TikTok. And one of the things I was explaining to her is like, look, TikTok is great. It's a great way to reach audiences, but in this area specifically, not many of our residents are actually going to be on TikTok, right? They're on Nextdoor, they're on Facebook and things like that. That's the primary social media platform for this. And if they're not on that, then they're on, email listservs or whatnot. So it's really important to know where your residents are at, what kind of platforms they like to engage in, what are their desired social media, what are their desired ways to get information on the city through social media and using that as opposed to just kind of having a broad brush, hey, one size fits all approach to it. And what I love about something like ChatGPT or these different ways like this is we can create more focused um, social media campaigns for the same event, but because we're using ChatGPT or a social or an AI system like this, we can actually do it in a way that maintains a unified brand voice. So you can see right here, you can imagine that this is the here we go. I can show you this. You can imagine that this is individual, say it's four individual images. It's kind of cut off here for now, but you could create four different images. And one of the things you can see is it's really creating a similar color scheme across the board. It's creating a similar text font across the board and things like that. So it doesn't feel, if you wanted to, you could post these four different images on different platforms if you wanted to, or on one carousel, but you can see it doesn't feel like it's disjointed or separate. It's separate images. You can there's a unified nature across the board to this, which I think is super super helpful. I'll go back over here. That's just the image. So obviously, with something like this, there's some inherent risk that comes with having hyper personalized things like this. Some other things you could do as well is you could tie this into, say, existing data that you already have, right? So if you have a listserv of people who are signed up for city events or city alerts, you could tie that in. You could tie in things like your maybe your utility data. And so maybe you want to have something hyper personalized for, focusing on residents who are utility customers for your city, whether it be water, wastewater. I know some places do electricity or even something like trash pickup or something like that too. And so if you know that, hey, we're going to have construction on this road or this area, so let's focus on sending out or um, having a notice to the residents who are impacted, and we can leverage our trash bill while we're doing that, or we can leverage our water bill and send these notices out specifically to that specific area in that. So it's one of those trends that I'm seeing across the private sector, these more hyper personalized, targeted campaigns using AI and using the data that we already have existing within our organization to do that, which I think is a super interesting thing. I think it's one of those trends that I think is going to get more and more momentum over the years as ChatGPT and as AI technology becomes more, not more available per se, but maybe more widely accepted and more widely anticipated. So one of the things that is really interesting to me if you study or look at social media use, especially in the public sector, is it really was the demand by residents to expect their um, to expect their cities, to expect their counties to engage with them in that way. And so the residents almost drove the public sector entities to social media because that's where they wanted to get the information. And so I think the same thing might happen here with AI, where because the private sector is going to be more hyper personalized and hyper localized in their messaging campaigns, the residents might then expect the city to do something very similar. And we have now the ability to do that using tools like ChatGPT and even using tools like building your own little mini app in a tool like Replit, where you can do exactly that and quickly create targeted and hyper localized social media posts and platform specific social media posts, depending on what ways you want to engage with your residents. So, with that being said, I'm going to stop my screen share. I know I rambled on for quite a while here. Hope it is helpful. Hope it's something that is something you can kind of consider as you're doing different stuff like that, is expanding the reach of your social media campaigns, expand the reach of your messaging campaigns to really focus on the residents that you're trying to engage and leveraging AI to be able to do that.
All right. Thank you, Micah. Very fascinating. Man, I love that. And actually got some really good ideas for some other uses as you were talking about it. So I appreciate it. I know we've got some questions. I want to throw it over to Halson. And Halson, you may have some questions of your own, but we've also had some come in. So I'll let you kind of shoot away at Micah with those.
Sweet. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, so we've got two questions from Jeff Gates. Curious in your thoughts. Jeff says, um, hello, Micah. With the images of the kids you used in your example, is it safe to assume that displaying photos of the kids have been approved by the parents' guardians? So I think this will be great for clearing up some misconceptions. What would you say to that?
Yeah, obviously, if you're going to use images of kids in any type of social media post, you want to make sure that I think it's really important to have approval by the parents. I don't necessarily know if it's a legal thing, but I think it's definitely an ethical thing. Not familiar with the legal laws in Texas and whatnot, but yes, you're going to always want to make sure it's allowable to do that. And I think it's actually something where AI can actually be really, really interesting use case because the image I created with the kids in the image, right? Those aren't actual real kids, right? Those are just AI generated images. And so especially if we're focusing on there's a balance, right? Because we want something to be both I can't think of a word for it, but relatable, I guess, to your city, relatable to reflect the community. So there's pros and cons to it. But if we're concerned or any concern about using images of kids, then AI can be a great way to leverage that because they're not actual kids. They're just AI generated images.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's interesting because the way AI works, it's been trained on images of kids, right?
Hmm.
And then it creates kind of its own like pattern or version of a kid that it's learned to create, right? So I I wonder if the images of the kids that it's been trained on was if the parents guardians provided consent for that. It's some of the
Yeah.
ethical stuff there. Um,
Yep. And it's one of those things that there are some issues within local government that are our issues to own, right? And so I think our issue to own would be whether or not we should be posting flyers with images of kids on them. Obviously, I think in local government, really important for the sake of trust to get permission. But what ChatGPT trains their images on, I feel like that's above my pay grade. There'll be lawyers and attorneys who can debate that and bring that forward if they so desire. But
all right. Question number two. Jeff asks, can AI tell you what the top used social media platforms within a certain region are for certain topics? For example, tourism.
that's a really, really good question. Um, I'm not exactly sure. So one of the things that would be you'd have to see is, you know, if they were able to say you were talking about getting the data that was trained on, right? If it was trained on the back end of social media, so like say the back end of Facebook, not just the publicly available posts, maybe you have a better idea. But without knowing exactly what social media posts they were trained on, it'd be a little different. It'd be hard to tell, but it'd be an interesting experiment to see.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. It'd probably give an answer, but like
Yeah,
how accurate is that answer is a
yeah.
question.
I think something, I wonder if something like maybe a Placer AI or something like that could possibly tell you what platforms that your residents are on. I'm sure there's something out there that can give you that information. I'm just not aware of what that is, but I'm sure there's something out there that can give you that information.
Mhm. All right. Well, fantastic presentation. Thank you so much, Micah, and look forward to hearing from you again in September. And hey, thanks for the plug about other SGR Wednesday webinars, and that's always appreciated. And as Micah said, you can watch them on our YouTube channel. And I also just want to take a moment to say Randy Mayu will be with us next week, and he's doing an older book that you probably have not thought about in a while, and yet I will say it is more relevant today, I think, than ever. It's Jim Collins' book. The follow-up from Good to Great was Great by Choice. And that's the one Randy's going to do. I heard him do this in for an organization just a few weeks ago. It was fantastic, and I can't wait to have Randy here with us next week to do that. So hope you can join us for that. And Micah, thanks again for being with us. Thank you, Lisa Shook, for all of your work behind the scenes, and my good friend Halson as well. And hope all of you have a great week, and we'll see you down the road.